Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I would do if I had an established business with a full sales team, active customers, and I suddenly needed 100 new qualified leads every single week. Now, I'll show you this and why this is important using a real paid advertising campaign data. Now, we generated 454 qualified leads for a single financial services client. That data is actually shown on the screen here. During our campaigns, we changed who we were speaking to and how we spoke to them. This is important because the share of leads that were doing more than 500K in annual revenue went from 37% to 53%, a relative lift of 43.8%. So, because getting leads and getting more leads is actually the easy part, the hard part is getting more of the right people to raise their hand. And that starts before you ever even open an ad account. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Isaac Wood. My agency helps financial services, insurance companies, and established services businesses generate qualified leads that actually turn into customers. And we've worked with over 70 clients and we've generated over thousands of leads for our clients. And so in this video, I'm going to show you the 4 things that I would get crystal clear on before I ever hopped in an ad manager or started actually running the campaign. Asking questions like, who do I want 100 more of every week? Why would they actually want to buy today? What do they already know? And what is actually happening in their world that we can turn into the message? Now, once I have all of these 4 things dialed in, we can start building the ad campaign, launch the ads, and start getting feedback from the market. So let's dive into it. The first question that I always want to ask before I start any advertising campaign is very simple. Who do I want 100 more of every single week? And I want to get more specific than most businesses do. A lot of companies might say, we want contractors. Okay, what kind? Where are they? How much revenue do they actually do? How long have they been in business? What type of work do they do? How many employees do they have? What jobs are they trying to win? Because contractor can mean a guy who started his business just last month. A contractor can also mean a roofing company doing $10 million a year with 40 employees. Those are 2 completely different customers, and that's very important. So I'm going to share a quick story with you guys to help illustrate what I mean. So let's assume I come to you and I say, hey, go find me 100 restaurants throughout LA, right? You'd be able to find that relatively easier. Now I say, actually, I only want sushi restaurants. So what you do is you whittle it down. There's going to be substantially less restaurants in LA that are sushi restaurants. Then I say, I only want sushi restaurants with at least 2 locations doing more than $2 million per year. So that hones our target down even more to the point where, we have very few of those specifically located in Los Angeles, right? Now we know exactly what we're trying to find. And that is how I would think about any customer acquisition, whether you're doing ads, whether you're doing outreach, whether you're making content. The concept remains the same. You have to know with exact specificity exactly who you're speaking to. And now, before I try to generate 100 leads a week, I want to know exactly who those 100 people should be. So let me show you an example. Maybe our starting point is business owner. Then we'll go one level deeper, contractor. Then we'll go another level deeper, roofer, the specific niche within contractors. Then we'll start breaking it down by revenue, $1 to $10 million in revenue, specific to the location, Texas and Florida. And so overall, now we have one very, very clear buyer. We've gone from general business owners, general contractors, all the way to roofers in Texas or Florida who are doing between $1 and $10 million in revenue per year. Now, you can dig this even further, right? Maybe they've already been in business for 5 years. Maybe they're already bidding on larger commercial jobs. All else equal, though, now I have somebody that I can actually build a campaign around. I can speak directly to that buyer. So the more I get clear here, the easier everything becomes specifically around the messaging, right? We know exactly where to look, what data matters, what examples we'll need to use, what problems are more likely going to matter. And ultimately, this helps us understand exactly what a good lead looks like. So that is step one. Who do I want 100 more of every single week? But there's still a problem. Two people can be a perfect fit for our offer and have completely different levels of intent. So the next question is, why would this person buy today? This is where we start to think about things like triggers. What became true that made this person more likely to act today than next week or even next year? Because someone can fit our ideal customer profile for years on end. That alone does not mean that they want to buy anything right now. Something usually changes that leads them to want to buy, right? Something becomes painful, something becomes urgent, or something new becomes possible. So let me tell you another quick story. Imagine we have two contractors. They both do $2 million a year. They both have 10 workers. They're both based in Texas. They both look like perfect customers. Contractor A wakes up on Monday morning. Nothing has changed. The same jobs, the same team. They have the same insurance. His renewal is months away and he ultimately could be a great customer. But there's no real reason for him to care about wanting to buy a product like insurance today. Now, let's look at contractor B. Same revenue, same team, same state, but Friday afternoon he got a call. He just won the biggest project his company has ever landed. The GC sends over the contract and there are new insurance requirements. So his current policy may not meet them. And the work starts next week. Now his level of intent is completely different. Same fit, different intent. That's the trigger. This is ultimately what's going to cause contractor B to take action much more quickly. And I think about this in terms of intent, almost like a timeline. So we'll think about it like this little timeline graph I built for you guys here. Assume next year, nothing has changed. Low intent, very, very low. Next month, perhaps the renewal is coming. So that increases the intent, starts to go up. Then the following week, they're bidding on a much larger project. Their intent continues to go up over time. And intent is basically just the intent that they are open to purchasing. Now that they've bid on the project, now that they've actually won the project, the intent is at its highest rate. They won the project. They have new requirements. They need to take action now. Now, this is exactly what became true. Other examples like they won a new contract, they hired new workers, they opened a second location. Maybe their renewal came back way too expensive. Maybe they lost a bid because they did not meet their specific insurance requirements or they showed they couldn't actually hold it in the first place. Maybe they bought new equipment or they just got a new license, right? There's a million different things that can possibly trigger you wanting to buy your product. But that's the research that we have to do in understanding our customer up front, right? But ultimately, the question is why today? Because if I understand that I can start finding more people who are open to actually making that buying decision soon, ideally today. So now we know two things. We know who we want, and then we also know why they might care right now. But there's one more thing we need to actually understand before we decide what to actually say to the market. And that is, what does this person already know? This is where market awareness becomes really, really useful. Market awareness was created by Eugene Schwartz, an OG marketer and psychology expert. Basically created this idea because two people can be in very similar situations and still need to hear a completely different message. And the easiest way I know how to explain this is with a leaking roof. So imagine there's a hole in your roof. At first, you have no idea. You didn't even know it existed. You did not even know about it yet. Then it rains. Water starts dripping onto the floor into your home. Now you know something's wrong. Then maybe you look up and realize, hey, the roof is leaking. You start looking around and you see, okay, cool. Now I need a fix. Now I'm doing some research. Now I'm finding, hey, there's all these different options out there. Then eventually you get some quotes from different roofers, and ultimately you decide which one is the best choice for you, right? Same person, same roof, same problem, but the conversation changes completely dependent on what that person already understands today. So let's talk about awareness, right? So at the top, you have someone who is completely unaware, right? Very low awareness. They don't even know that they have this problem in the first place. Then they become problem aware. Now they actually know something is wrong. Then they become solution aware. They understand what type of solution could possibly fix their problem. Then they become product aware. These are the folks that are actually looking at companies, products, and different solutions. Then they're most aware. This is when they're actually close to acting, or in some cases, they're already your customer, right? There's an important trade-off here at the most aware down here at the bottom. This is where you're going to have the least amount of people, right? This y-axis is showing, there's more people at the top, less people at the bottom. It means at the smaller end, there's going to be fewer people, right? You've probably heard something like 3% of your market is ready to buy right now. That's going to be your smallest, most aware segment. And these are going to be the folks that are most likely to close like very, very quickly, even immediately, right? So as you move up the funnel towards unaware, the market gets larger, right? You have 100 people in your total addressable market, only 3% are ready to buy now. That means you only have 3 people here. The 97 other people live somewhere else throughout these stages of awareness. And this matters a lot because, if your goal is to generate 100 new qualified leads every single week, you first can start with people who are already shopping. But at some point over time, once you've scaled this, depending on the size of your overall market, you're going to run out of them, right? So to keep scaling, you often have to learn how to speak to other people who are earlier in the journey. So going back to our contractor who just won the big job, right? Over here on the right side, early on, if he's unaware, you might say something like, hey, bigger jobs can come with new insurance rules, right? If he already knows that he has a problem, your current insurance could hold up your job. If he understands the solution, need more coverage before the job starts right here, right? If he's actively comparing different providers, looking for contractor insurance for larger jobs, and if he's at the highest level of awareness, your quote is ready. Same contractor, same job. The difference is where we enter that conversation. And that's the value of awareness, right? The trigger tells us why they care. Awareness tells us where to actually start the conversation. And so this is really like what marketing is. From top to bottom, you're communicating to your ideal customer throughout their awareness stages, depending on where they are in their buying cycle. Awareness tells us where to start the conversation. And now we have enough information to actually build our message. Now, this is where everything comes together. We'll build our buyer story. I want to understand the full story that the buyer is living in before I ever start trying to write a new ad. So let's use the contractor example one more time. It's Monday morning. You run a growing contractor business. Your phone rings. You just won the biggest job your company has ever landed. You're super excited. This could be the project that helps you hire another crew, maybe work with a larger GC or a general contractor, right? Maybe finally push the company into the next stage of growth. Then the contract comes in. You're seeing it. You open it and you get to the insurance section and the insurance requirements. Inside it says, hey, these are some requirements that you don't currently meet. Higher limits, new certificates, maybe workers' comp requirements. You pull up your current policy. You realize your coverage is falling short and work starts next week. So what do? Now you're calling your broker, you're sending emails, you're chasing paperwork, Your general contractor is waiting, your crew is waiting, and suddenly the next thing standing between you and the biggest project you've ever won is an insurance requirement you were barely thinking about 2 weeks ago. Now, this is the buyer story, right? Job is at risk. Ultimately, in order to get the work started, you got to have the insurance, right? And then happily ever after, you keep growing. This is the buyer journey from stages of awareness all the way to, from unaware all the way to fully aware, most aware. Let's see this in a story. First, we want to understand what they know. So who is it? Growing contractor. This came from the first section. Then we want to understand what they know today. They want a bigger job. That's the trigger event. Bigger jobs can ultimately have bigger insurance risks. The next one here is our problem. They realize, hey, I won this job. This is great. But now I'm realizing my current coverage is falling short. Now the problem starts to create real consequences. As examples, daily pressure, the job could get held up. They could lose the work. They're going after paperwork, which is preventing them from fulfilling their other jobs and continuing to keep the business going, right? They need answers fast, and then ultimately they go a level deeper, right? What do they actually want? The contractor does not wake up dreaming about buying a new insurance policy. They want to win bigger jobs. They want to start their work on time. They want to hire more people, and they want to continue to grow. Insurance is part of getting them there. That gives us the dream outcome. Win bigger jobs, start fast, keep growing. Now we can finally write the ad. It's something as simple as, hey, are you ready for big jobs? Make sure your insurance is too. Notice where the ad showed up at the end, because by the time I understand the buyer this well, I do not have to sit around trying to invent clever ad copy. This is very, very basic. It's a very basic example. You obviously have to have your call outs. You have to have your key value propositions. You're speaking to their problems, their circumstances, and the outcomes that they're looking to achieve. And so you build all of these out, and then you start to apply different iterations of each of them to have different ad variants. And so ultimately, we have the ingredients. We know exactly who the person is. We know exactly what happened. We know what they understand, what hurts, and how that problem actually shows up in their day, and ultimately what they actually want, their dream outcome as a result of using your product, your service, your solution, right? And the message is coming directly out of their current state, right? That is the process I would use before I ever started worrying about ad formats, landing pages, clicking buttons in the ad manager, or setting up new campaigns. So if I needed 100 new qualified leads of my ideal fit customer every single week, I would start by answering these 4 questions. Who do I want 100 more of every week? Why would they want to buy today? What do they already know? And what is the story that they are living right now? Now, once I understand those 4 things, then I can build the message. Then I can start testing ads, testing outreach, testing different offers, and watching what people actually turn into customers. And so that is how I would approach building another source of qualified, scalable lead. If you run an established financial services, insurance, or services business, and you want help building this out, there's a link in the description below where you can learn more about fast qualified leads. Encourage you to book a call there. And if you want more videos breaking down how we actually build and run these campaigns, then subscribe. But that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.